All right. What do we think? Ready? Okay. Okay. All right, let's begin. Welcome to the June 22nd meeting of the Human Rights and Relations Commission. This meeting is being held electronically to comply with the governor's Stay Safe Minnesota order and to ensure the safety of all residents and staff. For members of the commission, please remember to mute your microphone when you're not speaking and raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Please remember to keep your camera on throughout the duration of the meeting, and we ask that you do not use the chat function unless you're having technology problems. We will have roll call votes for each motion as well as adjournment. I will ask Reese Kareem to call roll after each motion. I will repeat the motion for the record before we vote, and also repeat who made the motion and seconded. We have a full agenda tonight, so please remember those watching and listening and your fellow commissioners, and let's try to stay on topic. Before we begin, there's a few things we'd like to cover for those listening or watching online. They had two ways to view the meeting tonight. You can watch the live stream on the city's YouTube channel or listen via phone using the WebEx call-in number. There's no community comment during the meeting tonight. The city is committed to hearing and receiving your input on matters. The public can send in comments to the city council or the HRRC through the council correspondence web form on our website. The recording of the meeting will also be able to watch on the city's website tomorrow. Thanks in advance for your patience as we work to conduct the meeting online. And people participating from their homes, and we thank you all for tuning in tonight. Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Epstein?
Here.
Commissioner Edwards?
Here.
Commissioner Epstein? Commissioner Felton?
Here.
Commissioner Ismail? Commissioner Siegel?
Here.
Commissioner Ross?
Here.
Commissioner Stringer-Moore? Commissioner Bennett?
Here.
Commissioner Guadarrama?
Here.
Student Commissioner Lichtenberger?
Here.
Student Commissioner Mirza?
Here.
Includes roll call.
Okay, the meeting agenda was emailed out to everybody. Can we have a motion to approve the meeting agenda? Commissioner Ross, do we have a second? Commissioner Siegel. Can we have roll call, please, for the vote?
Chair Epstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Felton?
Aye.
Commissioner Siegel?
Aye.
Commissioner Ross?
Aye.
Commissioner Guadarrama?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next, we'll move to the approval of the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes were also emailed to us in our packets for everyone to review. Can we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I actually have a change.
Okay.
On roll call last meeting, I marked Commissioner Guadarrama as late, but she was actually absent, so I need to make that change.
Okay. Did anyone else have any changes to the minutes? All right, we'll have a motion. Okay, Commissioner Stringer-Moore, second. Commissioner Edwards. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Epstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Felton?
Aye.
Commissioner Siegel?
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Aye.
Commissioner Stringer-Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett,
Aye.
Commissioner Guadarrama,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right. And we do not have a speaker tonight, so we will move right into, we'll move first into our 2021 work plan. And I know we had a number of updates for initiatives 1, 2, and 3, I believe. 1 and 3, 1, 3, and 4 for sure. But let's start with initiative 1, of course. And Commissioner Stringer-Moore?
We are moving right along with Days of Remembrance. I know the student commissioners were working with Heidi on the poster. I don't want to say the problem. Our speaker, speaks as a volunteer, and so he doesn't have typical materials that a speaker has. His response was to Google him when asked for a headshot and a bio and to pull something together. And I reached out to 2 other organizations that I know that have worked with him to see what resources they had. And they did the same thing. So we're going to have to move forward with the poster without his photo, unless, just as a bandwidth issue, I don't even know how you track down a photographer that's posted on the internet to try to, use it. I know in my personal and professional world, normally if I pull something from the internet, I just source it from that website. And I hope that that covers me, but clearly that's not the case for the city of Edina. I know, Michael, you were going to reach out to the JCC to see if I did reach out to Stephen, but he's on vacation. I know, and you have other contacts there. I don't know if you have an update from when we spoke to.
No, it's just that I placed a phone call, but hadn't heard back today.
So I think at this point, we just have to move forward with the poster without his photograph, because we're not going to be able to get a photo release by the actual photographer in time to promote the event. There have been some conversations about logistics, and I know that the committee is meeting again on Saturday, but that's our biggest update in just getting the promotional materials. We want to include his photograph, but I don't think that'll be feasible. Does anybody else from the committee have an update?
When do we think the deadline would be for the or are we there? I kind of felt like we were already there for the posters.
I mean, I think looking just in conversations with like the graphic designer, we pretty much are there. We can push it out a little bit further, probably maybe like a week. Because I did, inserting the headshot in the actual poster, or just kind of the document isn't that hard to do, but it's really then what are some of the things that you would like for that poster? So like, are you looking at physical poster paper, things like that, so that we have to have those ordered? But just inserting the photo itself is not that hard. It's just getting that release as well.
Right. Because I didn't know if maybe there would be an article in the Sun, and then maybe they'd go out and get a picture of him that they'd let us use. Because I know sometimes, they do that, or they certainly know how to get photos. But I don't know that have we contacted the reporter that we know there? Is that part of our agenda? Unfortunately, I missed the last meeting.
Yes, the I've contacted. They were just waiting for us to have the materials so that they can include that. So I can follow up.
Okay, so maybe if they get a photo right away of him or know of a way, then that would be great, and we can, use theirs. And if not, maybe at least we can use some of the material that they have for, Instagram, Facebook, Nextdoor, all that stuff when we start promoting it. So just because we don't have his picture for the,
they were planning to send a photographer out, but I can ask them if they will send a photographer. I know they mentioned a phone interview.
Oh, okay.
I can ask.
No, that's all right.
Commissioner Bennett had a comment or question.
Thank you. I have a question. Does the city, I know the city is
busy and moving in many directions and trying to reopen City Hall. But is there a chance that a photographer from the city could visit the gentleman briefly in his home and maybe even take a photograph outside that could suffice for a publicity photo?
I can certainly ask. I know that with the communications team, they are on a pretty tight schedule because there are other things going on. I can certainly touch base with a subcommittee because I did kind of do some backwards tracking. And so one of the organizations that did have the photo of Mr. Gabler was from NPR. And so there is a report or a story attached to that. So maybe reaching out to even the reporter that started that and getting that. So it is kind of that story was published in 2015. And it was when he spoke of his experience in Japan during the Holocaust. So kind of just
China.
Yeah, or China. So just doing a backwards design of seeing where that came from.
Are you going to reach out to that photographer or the?
I can give you the contact information. I'm not really sure how active the reporter is through NPR because they are an independent reporter, but I can certainly copy you on it and see if they're able to give the okay because I'm not really sure logistically how that came about with NPR for the photo.
I mean, personally, I guess the person who works with me, she takes pictures for me professionally. I could eat the cost and have her go take a picture of him if we feel that we have to have a photo.
Jasmine, did you reach out to Ellen Kennedy? Because I thought she had a poster with his face on it from
She said she pulled it from Google. And so
okay.
I've talked to her a couple times. I mean, and that's
okay, good.
He says pull it from the internet. She said she pulled something from the internet. So that's what she told me.
Okay, thanks. It's not a bad shot. It's a headshot.
Right, but for the city, we need to have a release from the actual photographer.
Understood.
And
There's no credits on here at all. So.
Well, so as a committee, we'll talk about it offline, how we'll get a picture of him, but we'll definitely get a picture of him somewhere. I mean, worst case scenario, one of us drives out, takes a picture of him, and we put it on, Instagram and Facebook. So it's not, but I do want the photo credit if I take it.
Well, you're signing the release form if you take it. So Heidi, what is our absolute deadline to make sure that we're able?
I think the poster were there, but not all the other stuff. Because we can still, I don't know how many people even see the poster probably versus how many people see it on Facebook or Instagram or.
The poster will be used as the image to be the graphic to promote the event.
Right, but I think that you said, Heidi, they could edit after. In other words, because I hear what you're saying, Jasmine, but we would have the one poster that's printed with the mock picture, with a generic picture. And then we could take the promotional material and add his picture, I think, to it later for.
So Heidi, are we able to, I just want to confirm that we're able to then update the poster with a photograph. It's not, that we can have two touches on this poster.
Like I said, the graphic designer said that it was not that hard to go ahead and do. But I think it's really then, do they have the capacity to have the two different touches as you were talking about, Commissioner Stringer Moore, to be able to do that? Because I think when they initially roll that out, they want to be able to have a main design that they push out to community, whether it's social media or actually the printing of the physical posters. So they do want one main set. I think the absolute deadline for that would probably be, I want to say June 30th at the latest. So
Okay.
that's about a week time frame.
Well, let's so some of us will talk offline. Tomorrow I want to work on this a little more and talk to JCRC. I mean, maybe I'll hear back from someone. So we'll keep pressing forward. And we haven't heard from Mayor Hovland yet if he can. Okay, I'm sure he probably will though. I think that was the only thing that was still up in the air on that. So, okay, good.
I'm going to meet with Heidi and go through the lobby and look at the existing poster art and banners and determine what we're going to try and do the day of the event.
Before we meet again, Cindy, do you think?
Thursday.
Oh, good, great. All right, so you'll update us on Saturday.
I will.
Perfect. Okay, initiative number 2, I do
Just
not
say one
believe.
thing, I'm sorry, Commissioner Epstein, before you
No,
move
go
on.
ahead.
Just special thank you to Heidi for the template that she gave us for organizing the event. And I think it'll be great for the commission moving forward around all of the other events that we have. This template, the role, kind of reverse engineer it and to make sure that we are meeting the requirements for the city. So thank you for that impactful tool.
Yeah, I second that. It really kind of walks you through all the things that you need to do, and it makes it so much easier than juggling it in your head. So that'll be a good document going forward.
Commissioner Epstein,
Yes, sir.
could I ask for the same document, Heidi? Okay, great, thank you.
Yours is similar. That's why I thought maybe you had the document when I saw your the summary you sent out, which we'll get to here in a minute. So okay,
Yeah,
good.
Commissioner Felton, your information that you provided had all of the touch points or the parts, so that's why I didn't send out that document to you yet.
No problem.
Okay, anything more with Days of Remembrance? Okay. Initiative number 2, as you saw in the packet, really it just is that the staff liaison is going to send out info to the subcommittee in July, unless there's anything else anyone wanted to add to that. And if
No,
not,
typically we start on it in late summer, early fall. So.
yeah. So Heidi will send out the checklist and some information, and then we can we'll set up a time to meet in late July. Okay, good. And then there was another attachment for initiatives 3 and 4. And I would ask Commissioner Felton to go ahead and talk to us about that.
Okay, thank you, Chair Epstein. I'm going to share my screen, so give me a minute to get that going. Okay, I'm assuming everyone can see my screen now. Okay. So members of the HRRC, this subcommittee, made up of Commissioners Bennett, Ishmael, Siegel, and Student Commissioner Mirza, will present our proposal for a community conversation titled Stop the Hate to meet the requirements of Initiative 4. Now, our objective is that after you have heard our presentation, that you will provide feedback and give us approval to proceed further with the planning. This presentation is structured to address the how, why, what, where, when, and who questions. More details were provided in the 12-page document that was included with the packet today. All of the members of this committee will present, and they have worked extremely hard, by the way, on this has just been a great committee to work with. But I'm going to start off by giving a genesis of the event, how it came about, the date, how it was selected, and then we'll move to Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Bennett had the foresight to say, well, before we go off and start planning this event, why don't we get a survey to find out if it's needed, if so, how it should be structured, and so forth. And then we'll move to Student Commissioner Mirza. He's going to talk about the main event. So all the details in the agenda. And then not lastly, but then we'll move over to Commissioner Siegel. She's going to answer the who question, the panelists. And then Commissioner Ishmael will have the most important role of asking the motions that are needed to move forward. Okay, if there are no questions, we'll proceed. Okay, so now the genesis of this event came about by Commissioner Stringer Moore. She gave me a call after our May meeting. And she said, you know, I'm kind of troubled by the increase in anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim and anti-Asian in the United States. This activity is just crazy, and we need to do something about it. And she said, if there's anyone to do something about it, it has to be our group because it's in our wheelhouse. And I agreed. So I shared it with the committee, and the committee was all for it. And they said, yeah, let's go for it. So that's how it started. Now, we had to pick the date. We wanted to do it very, soon, like yesterday, actually, June 21st, I believe. But, and I thank Heidi for this, her wisdom. She said, no, that's not a good date. You're not really prepared. And in hindsight, I realized she was totally right. And so this is what we did. We looked at July. We said it can't be July because the Days of Remembrance is in July. So we can't have two events in the same month. We looked at August and we said, hey, it's not August either because that's normally vacation month in Minnesota. So we narrowed it down to September. And the 1st and the 2nd and the 5th, these are the dates that are in green, were bad because it's Labor Day holiday. So that left us with the earliest possible date of the 12th. So tonight we'll be proposing that this event, Stop the Hate, takes place on September 12th. And then we'll also be asking for the approval to proceed with our Race, Justice, and Policing event. And we're proposing that that takes place as well on October 17th, which is consistent with last year. By the way, how we went through and put together this calendar, you see the green letters, the green numbers, and then black numbers. Black numbers represents unavailable. It was either a city meeting that was taking place or it was either a religious holiday for Christians, Muslims, or Jewish. So now, with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Bennett, and she's going to further answer the question of why and how with her survey. Commissioner Bennett?
Thank you, Commissioner Felton. Working with Commissioner Felton on the City of Edina Complete Count Committee. Members of that committee, working on behalf of the 2020 US Census, reached out into a number of communities in Edina to ask the questions, what does your community, as part of our greater community, need? What does it want, and what would be useful to it in the way of information? And that is the approach that I took with this survey, and also the people that I reached out to, or the communities that I reached out to. Knowing what we know about what's being experienced in particularly India right now with the pandemic, we did not hear back from some of those contacts, most of those contacts, but we did hear back from the Edina Chinese community, and also from a person who has touches or contacts memberships in several different communities in Edina. And we received, I think, some very helpful information back that helped us narrow to location. I think we had already learned at our last meeting and in contact with City of Edina IT department that we get the best IT support and are likely to have the most successful virtual event or hybrid event from City Hall. And that was also what our contacts told us, is that they view something at City Hall as sending a powerful message. And a symbolism of the city being behind this. One more takeaway, and I'm not going to read word for word, but one more takeaway is that people are looking for action. They're looking for information on how the city, on how city government can support their community, can fight this hateful actions within the community, and they're also looking to know what the community can do going forward and where contact people are for help. Back to you, Commissioner Felton.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bennett. Now we'll move to the next slide. Now, we're going to turn it over to Student Commissioner Mirza, but before we do, I just wanted to share with the committee, this young man walks on water as far as I'm concerned. I worked with him last year on the Race, Justice, and Policing event, and I was really impressed by him, and he has done the same thing as well. This event is really his brainchild in terms of the structure, and he had the initiative to actually design the poster without us even asking. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Student Commissioner Mirza to walk you through the event details, the agenda, and the poster. Commissioner.
Perfect. Well, I don't think I deserve that much credit, but there is a mock-up poster there to kind of highlight the event. And then as for how the event would go, the way we've talked about it, and as you can see in the bottom right area there for the agenda, we want to start with opening remarks about the purpose of the event, what we hope to achieve from it, and the general structure. And that would just be to kick it off. And then from there, we'd want to have a set number of speakers we've prepared ahead of time, run through, and who we really want to have an impact on what they're saying. And that's where we came into the idea of having members of different communities, whether it be Muslims, Jewish people, or people from the LGBT plus community, etc. So that's where there's preset times, as well as we already know the general idea of what they're going to be saying. And then from there, we move on to an open mic time, more or less, where members of the community who are watching can share their own stories about how they've struggled with rises in hate crimes or the impact it's had on their communities or on them alone. And that's more of a time to hear what the public is thinking and how it's impacted members of our community. And then from there, we move on to community organizations or groups, which are groups that have ways to get the public involved to fight against hate crimes or to help their community around them. And I do believe we have a list of organizations that we've reached out to or will be reaching out to discuss. And we'd have speakers from them who would have messages or ways to get the public involved. And then we would end with some quick closing remarks to just sum up the event and say thank you to those who were there. And I think that's all I have right now.
Great. Thank you, Student Commissioner Mirza. Now we're going to move on to Commissioner Siegel. She's going to answer the question of who by talking a little bit about our panelists. With that, Commissioner Siegel.
Thanks, Commissioner Felton. And if you can advance the slide, I think we've got some of the names listed. There we go. So what we're talking about now is the first section of the presentation, and we are working to find a representative group of speakers, extra points if they are Edina residents, to talk about the way their communities are very unfortunately experiencing hate. And as is noted on the screen, thus far we have identified these 4 individuals who we have not yet invited, obviously because the program hasn't been approved, but they are our above the line speakers that we would like to go to invite for that first section. So I might mispronounce the name, and this is Joey's recommendation on the first professor, Professor Decca. I apologize if I mispronounce her last name. I'm an Edina resident who can speak to some experiences in the Asian community, and her research has focused on health disparities, gender, and poverty in developing countries and marginalized populations. And she was a panel member of a League of Women Voters Forum on facts and faces of immigration. So Commissioner Bennett has heard her speak. The second person that we are considering inviting is Mr. Jaylani Hussain. Many of you probably know him. Quite a well-known spokesperson for the Minnesota's leading Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization. So he would be sharing some perspectives from the Muslim community's perspective. Next, we would like to invite Anthony Sussman, who is also an Edina resident and comes highly recommended as somebody who can speak to the voice of the Jewish community and unfortunate anti-Semitic activities and other hateful experiences Jews both in our immediate community and the broader locale have been experiencing. And lastly, Bill Wells, who has some perspective from the African American community, again, a well-known speaker, speaks widely and experienced in overall equity work. We have not yet identified somebody from the Indigenous community. I am in the process of working on that, and as we move forward later, I think we would welcome ideas. And then we have a series of other speakers that we are also considering, and a series of speakers we're considering for and so what are groups actually doing about it for the final section. So we have begun to research, and we want to share kind of the first people we'd like to invite with you with the names I just identified. And I'll send it back to you, Commissioner Felton.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Siegel. Great job. And now, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Ishmael. And she's basically going to ask this committee, or let the committee know, what we need in order to proceed in terms of an approval. So with that, Commissioner Ishmael, would you like to take over, please?
Thank you, Commissioner Felton. The initial 3 and 4 subcommittee respectively asking the HRR to approve this following mission for the Stop Hate event. And honestly speaking, the Stop the Hate, it's not something that will only help only our city in Edina, but it will reach far for a lot of community that's having the same problem in any city. I will say the whole world. If this thing been recorded and been seeing it, it will be something that will be forever be great for a lot of people to be educated and learn from other people's perspective. So we are respectively asking to be approved this motion. And the event title is Stop the Hate, and is we are hosting on Sunday, September 12th, as you can see it. And there's a lot of members that have been invited, and we're still looking for people that are people that are lived in city in Edina and have experience with their community in any other community, like it can be Jewish community, Muslim community. We want to invite all of them, so that way we all learned from other perspective, other culture. So we are respectfully asking you to to prove this mission.
Okay.
Back to Felton, Commissioner Felton.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Ishmael. Very good job. All right. Now, let's look at this slide. Now we're moving on to the initiative number 3. Initiative number 3 represents the justice and race and policing event. Now, this event, I think most of you know the background of it. It was actually started by the killing of George Floyd, and the city manager, council members, and the mayor said, "Hey, we need to do something. It looks like this community is ready to explode. Everyone is on edge. Let's try to get the people together, the community together, and have a conversation." So that's how it came about. And we planned that event for last October. I think it turned out really well. We had about 5 people on the panel, and quite a few people who actually watched the event. And I've heard numbers of upwards of, from 12 to 100 to even more. And this probably wasn't live, but after the event was taped and posted on YouTube. But basically, team, or HRRC, we're asking for you to approve the same event that we did last year, approve it this year. And also, additionally, if you could approve us reaching out to the police department and asking them to be part of this event. So basically, the event will be like last year, as I said, 5 panelists sharing their perspective on race, policing, justice. And also, this is an opportunity we're going to ask that the police department update the community on its progress on the Race and Equity Task Force recommendations. And personally, I'm very I'm very aware I never want to set up the police department to look bad or anything like that. So, but I've went through the Race and Equity Task Force recommendation. In fact, the police department has done a great job this last year. They put the policy out there on their website. They initiated the body cameras, and now they're working on trying to get the stats, of who they stop, put on their website. So I think it would be good for the community to hear that, our police department is really working hard to make a difference. So with that said, I'm going to ask this whole committee for the following motions: to approve the event in the exact way it was done last year, to approve the event for Sunday, October 17th from 3 to 5, approve it to take place in the council chambers, and give us the authority to reach out to the police department to ask for their participation. And with that, I'd like to thank all the group members who spoke. Good job, you guys. And we're going to turn it over to Chair Epstein. Thank you. And we'll entertain any questions or appreciate any feedback that you may have.
Excellent. It's just such a great presentation. Thank you, everybody, for your participation in that. I'll turn it over to the group for questions or comments.
So I have a couple. So first of all, to just echo what Chair Epstein has said, is that it's tremendous work. There's just a couple questions that I have as far as the staff liaison piece. And so for initiative number 4, which is the race, or actually for 3 and 4, just as a contingency, I have already reserved the spaces for those two. So there isn't any conflict with any events. So depending on what the motion approval is for tonight, those are already held for a hybrid event, as you have indicated. So going back to some of the questions that I have for the Stop the Hate event, I know that there was a motion for you to advertise in Sun Current. So if the commission does approve that, as a staff liaison, I would just need the cost to be able to move forward to see what that looks like. And then also for the posters, Student Commissioner Mirza, that's great work that you did on the poster. What I will also do is actually just link you with the city graphics, just to make sure that the graphic, the sizing and all of those things that go in with the planning is accurate, that we need in order for that to be able to push out for whatever you need for this event. So those are kind of just the two of my comments for that. And then for the Sharing Values, Sharing Communities event in October, I can certainly connect you all with the police chief and just kind of start that link as well. So those are just those comments that I have for those different motions on there.
Can we make this? I can't see everybody when the screen's up, and I don't know if someone's got their hands up or wanted to speak. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, Heidi, that's great that the dates are reserved. Commissioner Stringer-Moore, please.
I actually wanted to see the last slide, but I think I'll try to go off memory. Again, great work to the committee working on this. Thank you so much. One question on the speakers. I noticed that someone from the LGBTQ plus community was missing, and I know that there were some emails going around. I don't know if there's an opportunity to put a placeholder in that place to identify a speaker to represent that community. Should I ask all my questions first, or you want to respond?
Oh no, we can respond. That's very good advice. So we'll put a placeholder in place for someone from the gay and lesbian transgender community. We've reached out.
Yeah, I think we can reach out to either Outfront or maybe the state's Human Rights Commission and to see if they have some speakers as well. I think that's a great first start.
And we should give credit to Commissioner Edwards. We reached out to her and she's helping us with that particular task. So, yep, that'll be
Good
done.
news is I haven't had any bias experiences since I moved to Edina in 1995, but I'm sure people have. So we need to find the organizations or the community that can speak to that. So
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Commissioner Edwards, that there's covert and there's overt
yes,
bias.
there is.
Why you
Understood.
kind of had, overt bias, there could be some covert things going on. I mean, not you personally, but I think it's important to have that community
Yep.
represented because there is a large amount of hate tacked on there.
Yep. And Francesca, I know you spoke about that when you did your Tom Oy. I mean, there was some stuff at school, and you may be a good panelist. Your essay was wonderful, and I remember that distinctly because you had started some organization, right? I think.
Yeah, I did. Thank you for that. Yeah. Mhm.
And then too, I love the outreach opportunity. I think the nice thing about if we are able to vote on this and it passes tonight, there might be an opportunity for what is called earned media as opposed to paid media. Especially when I think about some of the work that other organizations are doing in the city of Edina. Maybe if we bundle the efforts to pitch Edina Magazine, and even like the Star Tribune, because I think in the past we purchased an ad in the Star Tribune for Days of Remembrance. And so too, I just like to add earned media opportunities to your plan, and then maybe pricing what it would look like to get an ad in the Star Tribune for the event in addition to the Sun Current. And maybe we could say and or depending on pricing and budget.
Thank you very much. Will do.
And then
Will do.
for Staff Liaison Lee, I don't know if, we are talking about some things that involve cost, and I don't know if there's an opportunity to leverage some of the America, I forget the act, but those funds that the city is getting to, cover the cost of the tentatively proposed advertisements for the event.
The proposal for the ARPA funds have already been submitted to the council, and that was proposed the last council meeting. And then they do have, based on the information from City Manager Neal, from the community feedback sessions, City Council will get to decide how those funds are distributed. And so tentatively, there's about 10 areas for the American Relief Plan Act. So I didn't see anywhere there was any distribution through the boards and commissions, but certainly looking at what is the funding or the amount that's needed, I can certainly see if it is within the budgets to be able to spend that.
And if there's not funding for boards and commissions, perhaps there's funding for community and engagement or community outreach, and maybe there's an opportunity to like cross-pollinate these two events in that category. I don't know.
Okay, one thing I wasn't totally clear on is it's just one total motion, right, that can encompass all of that? Is that accurate?
It's kind of, we're asking for approval to proceed with Initiative 3, which deals with the
Right.
race. And then,
Okay. So any other comments or questions anyone had?
I do. I've
Yes.
been raising my hand and I have been not, I don't think you have seen it, but I have raised my hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. I just want to add to what Commissioner Stranger was saying, the LGBTQ community, as well as the Latino community.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to add that. That was my other one, so I'm sorry.
Yes, I just want to be sure that when we are trying to include, we're not excluding. And especially, in these times, the Latino and the LGBTQ community is getting a lot of incidents. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to add that.
That's excellent.
yes,
Thank you for adding that.
And Commissioner Bennett or Commissioner Siegel, would you guys like to talk to that? But basically, we do have it on the list. So thank you for the reminder.
I'll just add, thanks Commissioner Felton, that if we're going forward, I think we would welcome recommendations for ideally an Edina resident, if not, somebody who knows the community, is known to be a good speaker, and can help us identify, the right people. So some of us know people and some of it has just been, research. So we'd really welcome suggestions.
Commissioner Bennett?
One additional point is that as someone who has planned events before, I would like the commission in consideration of a motion to perhaps allow us a little bit of flex in terms of the agenda for the event that we have presented to you this evening, because the more speakers we add, the more we may need to work a little bit with time. We had both a community demand for, request for an open mic, as it were, portion of the evening, or some opportunity for community members to tell their story. And then we also had members of the subcommittee who felt very strongly about that. But with the moving parts, I'm just requesting a little bit of indulgence from the commission in terms of how we manage that, depending on our number of speakers.
Definitely, duly noted. And I think that it is more of, you're giving us the construct of is the overall arching view. And I think there is definitely flexibility in terms of how it happens at the actual event. But getting the HRRC to approve it today really sets you on the course for it. So yeah, that's excellent. Okay.
One more question. Sorry.
No.
Looking at the feedback that was provided in the deck, and listening to Commissioner Bennett comment about the leeway for the planning committee, which I am in agreement for. And I know that our work plan is set for 2021, but perhaps I know later on we're going to get to the work plan for 2022. Perhaps there's an opportunity to allow for a event that really moves us to action in some shape or form, and invites city council and the mayor to be a part of that conversation, and to listen to recommendations and suggestions on how, we've heard the issues, we've heard what's going on, but what are the remedies and what are the steps that we're going to take to move forward. And so perhaps that should be, I don't know if that would be a part of the motion, that, we look for the 2022 work plan to have this action-oriented event, or just a general comment right now that we put in consideration, especially based on the feedback that was garnered from the community.
Thank you, Commissioner Stringer-Moore. I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Bennett. She had some ideas on that very subject.
We actually have planned for the third part of this event to be focused on solutions, and on that list of potential participants that was sent to you in the meeting packet, there are many more organizations, and the intention was to have other organizations than had presented in the first part of the event present in the last part of the event, particularly if they have a plan in place or actions in place. So we were hoping to cover it all in one event, although we may be a little ambitious on that front, particularly as Commissioner Guadarrama points out, we want to make sure that we're not excluding in including. But it was the hope to be able to send people out with ideas for what they could do as individuals, and also with an understanding of what their city government was going to do, especially with the bias event plan, response plan.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And I read the plan and I think it's wonderful. I just wanted to make sure that we were maximizing our time together, because I understand that so many decisions have to be voted on at the commission level. So, if we could check a broad paintbrush stroke. I wanted to make sure that we were getting as much as possible in the motion so that we are covered, just because of the timing of our meetings, which, you know, we have discussed before. So I'm not trying to step on any toes, or just wanted to acknowledge that I did read the plan, but I'm trying to get a lot in the kitchen sink in the best way possible.
So I would push back on that just a little bit. Not that I ever disagree with Commissioner Stringer more, but my take would be to keep this as it is, as a focused event on these two events, and then in our next discussion for the 2022 work plan development, I think what you're bringing up, Commissioner Stringer Moore, is crucial to that discussion, because what you're asking is, where do we go from this? And so that's been the question that the City Council's asked us. So your point is excellent. But for this motion, I think we want to make sure that we're sticking to this packet and this presentation. So I would just kind of push back a tiny bit on that, and want to make sure we distinguish between the two. Unless I'm missing part of the packet.
Part was just included in the packet about section 3, but it wasn't included in the presentation. So I was trying to subtly bring it into the conversation, because it wasn't in the presentation that was shared during the on the record meeting. But I guess the packet is a part of the on the record. So that's why I was trying to bring that in.
No, for sure. And I think this is the beginning of a lot of conversations. I mean, I don't think initiative 3 and 4 go away. I definitely think that we would want to do the policing and justice maybe yearly. That's a discussion we'll do soon. But for now, for these two motions, we'll go with this work that's been presented. So, any other comments or questions before we call for the motion? Okay.
I actually have a question, just to clarify for the record. Did someone state the motion?
So do we want to read it, Commissioner Felton?
Why don't I bring it back up and then
just read that one page.
Right, the motion page with the bullet points.
Yeah, yep. Go back. One more. There you go.
Okay, would you like me to read it, Chair Epstein, or?
Well, does it have to be read, or okay? Yeah, read it, please.
Okay. We are asking the committee please to approve the following motions. 1, hold the event titled Stop the Hate. Hold the event on Sunday, September 12th from 3 to 5 p.m. Hold the event at City Hall within council chambers. Broadcast it live as an in-person and invite in-person audience versus a virtual event. Invite Jewish, Muslims, Asians, LGBTQ, and the BIPOC communities to participate in this event. Also post stop.
Latinos, we want to make sure that we add that verbiage into.
Okay.
Are you going to do hybrid, or is it only in person?
Let me address this to the team. That's a great question, Cindy. Commissioner Edwards, team, what do you think? I think we did say it was going to be hybrid, but correct me if I'm wrong.
One of the benefits of having it at City Hall is that you can do hybrid.
Well, I think that's the broadcast live
with the in-person audience.
Yeah. With an in-person.
So there's input from the community with the broadcast live.
I believe that's the case. Commissioner Bennett, would you like to weigh in? I believe that's the case, Commissioner Edwards.
I believe that was the intention of our subcommittee. By broadcasting, it's sort of many steps up from Zoom. If we intend for there to be virtual participation in terms of posing questions, I'm not sure how we're having a time for community input. We have not, I think, planned for an actual question and answer period, and that would be where an email address or a telephone number would need to be provided for people to pose questions. But otherwise, people would have the same view virtually or TV screen, computer, Facebook live that they would attending in person.
Perfect. I'm not convinced the pandemic is over. That's why I keep saying, let's keep this hybrid model around if we can. So.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner
Just to
Edwards.
clarify, when I said I needed the motion, so motion by Commissioner X to approve Initiative 3 and 4 work plan event, seconded by Commissioner Dada. That's what I meant.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
Okay. Thank you, Reese. So then I can turn it back over to the chair to ask the committee for a restate the motion and then ask for a motion to approve in a second.
And so just to interrupt, can we have the two different motions just so that they're on record? So from my perspective, the what you just had, what you're showing right now, Commissioner Felton, is the motion for initiative number 4, and then
Yes.
the one which is page 9 of that PowerPoint is for initiative number 3. Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly? So can we just have two motions for initiative, or excuse me, one motion for initiative 3 based on this information that is in front of you, a motion for initiative number 4, which is the previous page. So that
Okay.
they're kind of listed for record.
Okay. Well, I can restate the motion as this. For motion number 1, we're asking the HRRC to approve the detailed motions as displayed on page 6 of the PowerPoint slide. And
Okay, and then I think we need to call for a second. I can't see the screen, so if someone's raising their oh, there we go. Okay, do we have a second? Commissioner Ross, second. Okay, so can we have roll call for the first motion?
Chair Epstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards,
Aye.
Commissioner Felton,
aye.
Commissioner Siegel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett, Commissioner Guadarrama,
Aye.
Commissioner Stringer Moore,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay, and then we'll go for the next one, which was the October 17th. So do we have someone who can make that motion? Commissioner Bennett?
Yes, I have a quick question. In the consideration of the previous motion, was Commissioner Guadarrama's recommendation that the word Latino be added to the communities that were listed as being invited to the event?
Yes.
That was included. That will be included in the recorded motion and vote.
Yeah.
I think it's Latinx.
No, Latino.
No, it's not Latinx.
Well, actually, it's Latino, Latina, and X as well.
Somewhere in there.
We are
Yep.
in where like A, O, and X.
Yep. Just want to get it right.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm happy to move the next.
Okay, Commissioner Bennett makes the next motion for the October 17th event. Do we have a second?
Second, Commissioner
Okay,
Stringer Moore.
thank you. All right, and roll call for the next motion, please.
Chair Epstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards,
Aye.
Commissioner Felton, Commissioner Siegel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett,
Aye.
Commissioner Guadarrama,
Aye.
Commissioner Stringer Moore.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Well, I'm a little frustrated with that group because they set the bar so high on these presentations that now for everybody else, we're going to have, we got group participation. They dotted every I and crossed every T. That really was excellent and very clear. And the fact that you got it out to us before the meeting in the manner that you did, I think really prepared everybody for that excellent discussion. So thank you all for your work, especially Commissioner Felton, who led the charge there. It's going to be two amazing events, and I think it is exactly what the city is asking of us and the city council. So I think we're heading in the right direction there. It's just very impressive. Initiative 5, I believe there were no updates, and there may be one for Initiative 6. Heidi, did we have a small update there? Or someone met with the municipal? I don't know if that was before our last meeting or not.
Our last meeting feels like a blur, so let me see here. It was the day of, so I provided
Okay.
that update on our last meeting.
Okay. All right. So nothing with either of those, unless anyone had any more comments on the 2021 work plan. All right. Excellent. So we will go on to 2022 work plan development, and I'll turn that over to Heidi.
Great, thank you. And so for this particular agenda item, you are, as a commission, are going to start thinking about what does your 2022 work plan look like. And so I want to be able to kind of show you some documents as you are all having this discussion of what does 2022 look like, some things to really just keep in mind. And so I want to be able to share my screen with you all. And so what you should be able to see right now is kind of where it says boards and commissions work plan timeline. And so to give you an understanding of where we currently are at, and MJ provided this information to you last meeting as well, is June and August is really when commissioners or commissions are really looking at what their work plans are. And so with this process that you're at throughout June, July, and August, and then the finalization for the proposed work plan will be due back to me or just that approval as an entire commission on September 28th. I know that we do have a meeting that day, so you will have one final time to take a look at your proposed commission work plan for 2022. I will submit it for review, and then on October 5th, Chair Epstein will actually present to City Council based on the information that you all created for the proposal. And then that feedback from Council will be presented on October 5th. And then November 3rd is when the staff will recommend any feedback that was presented from the October 5th meeting. And then December 7th is when council will actually approve their work plan. Generally, the approval has always been on the consent item. And so all of those commissions will be presenting to City Council. And then once that has been approved, then 2022 of January is when the work plan again starts again. So really thinking about that, it's kind of as you're ramping up to be completing your work plan items, you're already starting to plan for your next year. So it feels like it's an ever evolving work plan for the commission. And so as you are thinking about some of whether it's new items that you want to present on your 2022 work plan, just to kind of have a reminder of these are the different charges that council provides to a commission. So there are 4 of them. There is a study and report, which is basically the commission is taking a look at are there items that they want to research, and then going ahead and presenting that to council. So just a recommendation. With a review and comment, that is generally, sometimes the commission is asked by another commission or a policy to review, and they will go ahead and just provide feedback. So really thinking about last year, where you are providing feedback on the housing task force on your current work plan. You have a review and comment, which is coming a plan from staff on how to be able to get communities of color and underserved communities to participate in parks and recreation programming. So that is a review and comment, and we would submit that to City Council. And there wouldn't be a formal presentation, but more of just a staff comment or report. Review and recommend are some of the things that you have done within your commission is really thinking about the Yancey Park, where you work collaboratively with another commission and did the research and then recommended Garden Park as the park to be renamed. And that was then brought up to City Council for their approval. So really thinking about for council charges, there's kind of a pathway in the way that these charges are set up. And then the fourth charge is a review and decide. And a lot of, I think probably 50% of your current 2021 work plan items are a review and decide. And so that's really thinking about taking on that initiative, reviewing, making decisions, and bringing that up to the commission as a whole, and that there is a majority vote required for that. And so there isn't necessarily an official recommendation to City Council, but really thinking about if there are things that are needed to be brought up to City Council, they can certainly provide their feedback on that. But those are kind of just things to consider as you are starting to propose your 2022 work plan. So I'm going to go ahead and just stop sharing the screen and just have you have a discussion as a commission of what are some of the things that you would like to be able to have on your 2022 work plan. Again, this is kind of just a brainstorming option or process for you right now. And then in the coming months, it'll be more of a refined having set work plan items that you want. And so thinking about when I first became the staff liaison for the HRC, there was 11 items that was on the 2019 work plan. And of those items, really thinking about that, I want to say maybe about 60% of those items were completed. And then coming into the next year, 9 items for the work plan. And I think those were, at 80% completion as well, probably 70. And then thinking about 2021 work plan, where there's currently 6 items. And the progression of those items from what I see is going to be at 100% completion. So really thinking about the capacity within your group as a commission, because you all have busy lives, and really thinking about not to put those additional stresses on you, because you are volunteers for this city, and you definitely have voice in what does that look like. So I want to just kind of put that at the table so you are thinking about that. And really with the work plan item that or the template, one of the things for this year is to really prioritize what are some of the ones that you want to do. So currently in your 2021 work plan item, it's kind of just listed by initiatives. But for this year, we're going to be presenting to City Council. Number 1 is your top priority, and then having it go down as far as the priority list.
That's how council wants us to do it, right, Heidi?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because there is. Yep, absolutely. And so because there is a potential, whether it is in the chair meeting or the staff meeting with City Council, that City Council may say, let's go ahead and go to a different direction, and may remove one of the items. Or they might go in a different direction and add another item. So you might, for example, have 5, and then they're like, oh, this is pressing. These are things that we've heard, and add 2 more items onto the work plan. So kind of what does that balancing act look like for commission, and really thinking about what are your top priorities as a collective whole that you want to look at for 2022. And so as you are all brainstorming, I will also be kind of just taking notes and putting in the template and then sending it to you all after the meeting, so you have a chance to take a look at it and provide feedback in our July meeting as well.
Commissioner Siegel?
Thanks. I just have a clarifying question, on the grid that you had up. The far right, I think it was review and recommend and then vote, whatever the number 4 was. If you just have an example of whether this commissioner has had, initiative like that, or if others have, I just appreciate hearing an example.
Absolutely. Within even the 2021 work plan, there is, I believe, there's about 50, probably 50%. So 3 items, actually 4 items that come to mind. That is a review and decide. And so I will bring this up for you here, Commissioner Siegel. So this is what you're seeing in front of you is the 2021 work plan. And this is going to be similar to the 2022 template. And so initiative number 1 right here is listed, which is the Days of Remembrance. And the second line on the right section is review and decide. So for example, events, Days of Remembrance, the Tom Oy Award of how what that process is a review and decide. Another one is also initiatives 3 and 4 that you all just made the motion on. So as a collective whole, the HRC has that subcommittee and they kind of plan out what does this look like, and then bring it to the entire commission. And then with the majority vote, that is what the commission decides to do, and they're able to go ahead and carry out or implement that particular initiative.
Hi, while we have that up, did you want to touch upon the ongoing?
Yeah. So there are, there's a lot of overlap as well with some of these initiative types. So as Chair Epstein was talking about, example for initiative number 1 that's in front of you, on the box right here where it says initiative type, there could be a series of 3 different types of initiatives. One could be just a project where it might just be for a year. So for example, an initiative type, the example that I gave with Yancey Park was a project where it was given to the commission for 1 year only. And it doesn't necessarily, out of research or things like that, it may transition into an ongoing or annual event. So kind of looking at it like that initiative type can, eventually be 2 out of the 3 boxes that could be checked off. So an ongoing annual event example that you have currently in your work plan is the Days of Remembrance or the Tom Oy Award. So these are kind of things that have been on the work plan for many years. Another example is the bias events plan, which was a recommendation or a charge from City Council for the HRC to review that policy every year. And then an event, again, is, with the HRC events that has been an ongoing annual, work plan. So it includes the Days of Remembrance, the Tom Oy Award. So kind of things where it brings community members together is that event piece. Is that helpful?
Commissioner Siegel, I think I cut you off when you were going to say something.
No, it was really helpful. And I can see the check boxes and then putting them together in that way. Puts the pieces together for me. It's just language that I think of differently. So yeah,
sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
And so as you're taking even a look at, I will bring up the other 2022 template so that you can take a look at it. Like I said, it is similar. When we have meetings, I actually go ahead and provide an update every month. So what you see in front of you is the proposal template. I kind of manipulate it a little bit. So where it says progress Q1, 2, 3, and 4, I just change it so that there's a monthly update for you all to do. Each commission does things differently. But as a staff liaison, I want you to be aware of what's going on. So with the template itself, we've gone over, the initiative type, the charge, the initiative title, the deliverable, the leads, and the target completion date. That is something that you as a commission have that decision making to put on the proposal itself. So the budget required is something that I would have to take a look at, depending again on what the needs are or the ask is from the commission. And we would also have to look at city council approval for that budget. The staff support required would also be completed by Reese and myself, really looking at what are the needs. A lot of the staff support that comes to mind that I put on or that we put on that particular line is communication needs. It could also be, IT needs, technical support needs. If this event is being housed at a city facility, we would also need staff support for Parks and Rec you know, employees as well. So kind of looking at who will be impacted by this particular initiative. Staff liaison comments is really where I would put in information that is a need to know for City Council. For example, Days of Remembrance. I remember a couple years ago where it was listed as as an initiative, and really for consideration of is the Days of Remembrance needing to be at a different location because it had grew with a lot of people attending. So those are kind of the staff comments. City manager comments will be added after the initial proposal is brought to City Council, so after the October 5th meeting. And then progress 1, 2, 3, and 4, that is that will remain on a quarterly update that I provide to the city manager. But again, I just changed it a little bit for your updates that you see in your packet. So that's kind of what this template looks like. So I want to give time for you as a commission to think about what are some of the initiatives that you really want to have conversations about or think about, so that it can be proposed by the September 28th date.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Heidi before we start to queue up some initiatives? Commissioner Siegel.
So one more, just processing. As you look at the plan, when of the 6 we have right now, am I tracking correctly to say that the days, I'm looking at what's ongoing. And so trying to gauge how much capacity is there really? So if something is noted as ongoing, I'm wondering, do we have the authority to say it should stop? Or if it's listed as ongoing, is it then our obligation to continue it? Because there's not a lot of capacity given the amount of ongoing, if I'm tracking correctly.
That is correct. I know there has been conversations in previous years for the HRC to consider some of the ongoing events may be done every other year, but really it's also what are the needs or the wants of the community as well.
So Commissioner Siegel, we can present whatever we want to the council. You know, we could say that we feel Days of Remembrance is, you know, like Heidi just said, an every other year event. And then they'll push back on us on any of these if they think they're yearly. So if our group feels that Tom Oy Award should be given once every 5 years or something, then we can definitely present that. I have found that with the few years that I have been on, my take, and this is just my understanding of it, is that the council really is behind the Days of Remembrance as being a yearly event. And I believe Tom Oy also, Tom Oy was the one where they kind of recommended we do it every other year. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there was a
said,
consideration, or you know, to have it every other year. I mean, and it's also looking at what the particular deliverable is for the initiative. So, for example, with Days of Remembrance, it necessarily there is a resolution tied to acknowledging the Days of Remembrance that City Council had put forth. However, there's flexibility in what does that look like. So the acknowledgement of Days of Remembrance could certainly be a a newsletter, or it could certainly be other things in consideration, or aside from it being an event. So that's where within that particular deliverable as a commission, you all have kind of that decision-making, proposal authority as well.
Commissioner Bennett?
Perhaps there may be some discussion and recommendation or request regarding also what was done with the human services funding, which was keeping a role for the HRC in that process, but also involving other people in the process. as something that is ongoing, and perhaps with some of the ongoing responsibilities, either former HRC members could be involved, or perhaps other people in the community could be involved, just in terms of increasing that bandwidth of the bandwidth of this commission a little bit, so that some other initiatives might also be requested, recommended, or undertaken.
I'm not sure I understood that. What was it that you?
Well, in order to expand the bandwidth. So if
Okay.
bandwidth is taken up with events that
Right.
are ongoing, that was one of the issues with human services funding when I was a city council member, is what a big
Oh, human services. Oh,
was for the HRC and how many extra meetings it involved for the full HRC. And so the recommendation was to, you know, keep the HRC involved because of the importance to human rights, that connection, but also involve things like the Community Health Commission, other city advisory bodies that also would have some expertise and could work on it, and so to give the HRC a little bit of breathing room in bandwidth.
I understand. Okay, good point. Thank you.
I think in the past, I think it's called the Blue Form, and we normally do have like a community committee for Days of Remembrance, and we've done that before, but I think just this year, due to logistics and the pandemic, most of the work is being done by the commission itself. But I don't know what the exact process is, but I do know it's like the Blue Form that has to be completed for the community committees.
So I guess for the purposes of this discussion, what I'm curious about is, are there subjects or topics that somebody feels they want to add that would be a brand new initiative? And I don't think it's something that it doesn't have to be just done tonight, but that would be kind of my first thing that I'd be curious about, because once we populate that list, then we can go back and say, all right, look, we've got 4 or 5 on here that we do every single year, and is one of these new ones a big enough priority that we feel maybe we want to do it every other year or somehow modify our capacity? It's also okay if we say, look, these are 5 initiatives that work out this year, they're going to work out next year, and we want to push forward and maybe just change initiative 6 to something different. But that I guess that would be kind of where I would be curious as to a beginning discussion. Commissioner Bennett.
I have two. One is under the umbrella of race, justice, and policing, and that is a discussion of how to reduce calls to or encounters with the police. And the idea, well, one place that idea came to me is out of that discussion that the Community Health Commission was having with the City Council, where they are looking at a device or some kind of that people with autism can wear, so that if there is a contact, there's a database that can give officers, so this doesn't reduce the encounters, but it keeps them safer, where there's a database of information, and someone whose characteristics might be perceived as threatening, what they're presenting can be understood correctly. And I think that's an initiative that Community Health is going forward with, but it may be something that this body wants to support. But that would be that would be one type. Are there other instances? Is there public education that can be done on when it's appropriate to call the police, and when are there other numbers that people can call, or contact your neighbor directly, or I see it as kind of a spectrum, and maybe full suggestions for educating the community on how not to have the first thing be a call that may generate a contact that may or may not be productive and safe. So that was one idea. And the other idea is that when I was a council member, the park, and now called Parks and Recreation Commission, then the Park Board, looked at both a fundraising policy or donations policy, which was adopted by the council, and also a naming policy, because what we name our public facilities helps tell the story of our community. And this would be an extension in keeping with what the commission did with the renaming of Yancey Park. But there has been a lot of renaming in this community, and most of the renaming has been of public officials, either elected or not. So if you look around the community and you look at park names and recreational facility names, a lot of the names you're going to see are of developers or officials. And I think that there is very likely, certainly, a lot of story in this community that's not being told. There are templates in other communities for what their policies are for consideration, what their timelines are. And I think that this is something where the body might have an effectiveness weighing in about this naming and renaming.
Any comments on those from the group?
Just clarification, Commissioner Bennett, were you with the donation and the fundraising policy, was that one separate initiative or was that tied into the naming policy?
There were two different working groups and two different reports. And
Okay.
the council did adopt the donations policy. There was a division of opinion on the council about the naming policy, but I retired from the council at the end of 14, and I would hope that our awareness of the power of naming has increased during that time, and also maybe our interest in understanding the history of our community better and celebrating more of the history of our community. So that's where my proposal to revisit that issue comes from.
So it would be to revisit the naming policy, the facility naming policy?
Yes, and to possibly build on that work. But again, there's a foundation because there was a written report produced. And several of the people involved in that working group are still in the community. Not proposing that we send it back to that group, but just that we may want to update that information and view it through a DEI lens and present a recommendation that way.
Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Edwards?
And I'm openly not sure I know what I'm talking about, but has there been any work within the city about the redlining and the deed revisions that are being proposed across the whole county? Heidi, do you know?
Yeah, so last council meeting, in the council meeting before, there was an agenda on the consent where city council approved the city's participation in the Just Deeds program. And so then last council meeting, the city council approved all 52 city-owned parcels with restrictive covenants to go through the process of being renounced. And so from my updates, I believe that has already been put in through the city lawyers. So that will be officially renounced probably in the next couple weeks. I'm not really sure what the timeline is because I know that there's a lot of folks that are trying to renounce that. And then with the actual residential properties, that is actually now open on the city website. And so we do have staff members from the Racial Equity Advancement Team that are kind of supporting that for the first year. And then the plan is to hand that off to community development where they will continually support that and then also transition into where are their discriminatory language in ordinances or zoning as well. So kind of that transition point, but the city is participating in Just Deeds. And that was one of my staff comments, so you made me say it earlier.
That's okay. Thank you. I wanted to make sure we had that covered.
Okay. Commissioner Siegel?
Yeah, I would like to consider kind of an entirely new topic while also recognizing, whether it's 2022 or perhaps the future, given the imperatives on the existing plan. And also by way of preference, preface both initiatives 3 and 4, are race, justice, and policing. So perhaps there's room, to expand, and a particular area that is problematic and growing really is ageism. And we are an aging community, and helping our community understand, what is ageism How does a community mitigate the impacts? How does it show up in a variety of ways? And I can imagine multiple ways to both educate and assess the tools our community has, and potentially do more. So it's a new topic area that I would propose is worthy of consideration, and also recognize the need to weigh it against, kind of the imperatives we already have.
It's actually a topic a couple years ago that we did bring up to council. So it's definitely something that's been considered, and it's been important. I think at that time we were going to be applying to be an AARP city, and for whatever reason, the council didn't see it as a good fit at that time. I know there was some other work with some other commissions in that area, but that's a good topic to bring back up to this group. So thank you.
And for that, I know that had been on the 2019 work plan in conjunction with community health. And community health was the lead commission on that, and they did provide a recommendation or a report to city council. Just thinking about the logistics of that that consideration, or just to be named as an ARP city. And just the maintenance, I think, of it. And so really that was kind of their feedback on what does that mean, but we can certainly go ahead and consider that for the next topic too, for 2022. So I'm just writing these notes down.
I want to ask a question a little different way. Are there any of our current initiatives that anybody in this group feels may not be necessary to do on a yearly basis, excluding Initiative 6, which is kind of its own animal right now? But the other 5 initiatives we've done every year, and I'm wondering if anybody has any strong feelings that we should not include one of those. Or, and if it's not, and if it's something that, and if you don't have a feeling about that right now, please consider that something to think about. I don't personally, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the group feels, hey, listen, we've done the Tomboy every year and it's not whatever. So that's something to consider. These are not written in stone. Okay. So Heidi, what will we look at as next steps here on the 2022 next meeting? We'll.
Commissioner Felton had a comment. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, my comment is kind of along the lines of what you just said, Chair, and also what Commissioner Stringer Moore said in terms of whatever we do, hopefully is couched in something that makes a difference in people's lives. For example, Juneteenth was approved and it's a holiday now. And it really feels good and it sounds good, but what impact does it really have on my life? And there's not much at all. And so, and the danger of saying Juneteenth was approved is it allows something of substance to be taken off the hook. And so that's my concern is whatever we do, that's my recommendation, is it really should make a difference, hopefully.
I echo that. I agree 100%. And that's what I think we've got with these 5 initiatives. I mean, the Days of Remembrance, it's obvious it's a great event that so many people learn so much. Tom Oy, we give the award to somebody. Initiatives 3 and 4, all you got to do is look at the presentation tonight to know their impact. And with Initiative 5, the fact that we get in front of the police chief 4 times a year, I would never give that up. So I'm right along with you, Commissioner Felton. I think that these are all impactful. Commissioner Shermore?
Yeah, I think I know when we originally joined the commission, that sharing value, sharing community, that we actually, that one year there were 2 events. And I think, moving forward, and whatever that looks like moving forward, in the pandemic, post the pandemic, everyone has mentioned that mental health is our next pandemic. And I bring up sharing values, sharing community, because that year we did hold a very impactful sharing values, sharing community session um, on mental health, and we had representatives from um, across sector, from education, from the police force, from the school system. It was a very impactful event, and perhaps we could even look at collaborating or partnering with the Health Commission on resources and or taking control of your mental health. Again, putting that action in front of it so that it's not just performative. You know, it's really about moving beyond checking the box and saying we're doing something, but the solution oriented that Commissioner Bennett spoke of.
Yeah, let's add that back in mental health. Ageism, mental health, these are topics that we talked about before, but this year they weren't high on that list. The other thing, just to mention, is start to think about how you would order these. I'm not sure how we're going to come up with that system as a group, but just for your own personal homework, if you go back and look at this list and say to yourself, if I can only do 2 of these, which 2 would they be? Make that 1 and 2. You know, then look at the other 3 and say, all right, if I can do 2 more, and on and on. And I don't know if we'll vote or what. Heidi and I can talk about that offline, but that's a new charge from the council. I don't know what kind of impact it may or may not have, but it's something we can do. So start to think that way. Commissioner Bennett?
This conversation just now causes something else to come to mind, and that is the Racial Justice Action Committee of the League is also in its planning phase for this next year. Our new year started on April 1. And one of our members is Ellen Kennedy. And this issue of felon disenfranchisement is really powerful and of great concern because the League is so much concerned about voting rights. And one question was, is there a way to make the understanding of it local to our community? How many people in our community are prevented? Because Minnesota is known for being a state where there are very, very long probation periods, sometimes very short sentences, very long probations. And when there is voter fraud in Minnesota, most often it's because somebody doesn't know that they are still on paper and don't have the right to vote. So if there is a way to, through the city, obviously the privacy of voting records protected, but is there a way to bring the numbers to public attention of this is how not having this changed at our legislature is affecting our voters in the community? Again, just thinking of what we could work on that might have impact.
Definitely. And voting in general and all the issues surrounding it. So yeah, that's great. Commissioner Siegel?
Thank you, Chair Epstein. And this is my, I'm taking the opportunity to learn a little bit. So thanks for being patient with me, because having worked, on the subcommittee on initiatives 3 and 4, I have learned, some of the differences between 3 and 4. But I'm curious just a little bit about the history. And, we developed how we were going to do 3 and 4 this year. But I'm curious about why they both are here. One, as Commissioner Stringer-Moore was saying, is to bring just conversations on topics together, and then the other is more of a big event. But I would like, if there's time, just understand a little history of why both.
I can try to answer that, and then I'll let Staff Liaison Lee fix what I said. But my understanding is that for many, many years, we had the Sharing Values, Sharing Community event, and we had the flexibility as a group to choose which topic under, the HRRC umbrella we would choose each year to hold an event. And then I think that number 4 came into play with the George Floyd incident, and then the council gave us that charge. But is that not accurate, Heidi?
Yeah, it is accurate. I think there was a lot of momentum with the race, justice, and policing.
And the Race Equity Task Force, I think, pushed some of this into our agenda, didn't it?
Not for the race, justice, and policing, the Sharing Values sharing communities, but it was really out of the city council not just having a one and done event for the race, justice, and policing, and so they wanted that to continue, and so that is why there is Initiative 3. And then with Initiative 4, which is that umbrella that Chair Epstein was talking about, is really just having that kind of be like a focal event that was a continuation. So giving a little bit more flexibility with the HRC to plan additional events in addition to the sharing values, sharing community events. Because even with initial work that the subcommittee did last year, there was a lot of recommendations of how do you have continual growth and continual community conversation, and not just have like one big event. And I think that really, as you all are talking about, what does that lean into action? That's part of the reason why it was put into 2 different initiatives, but having kind of the same goal into the community conversation.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does help. And I'm just pondering what could go if it needed to make room for something else. So I just wanted to get that history because I'm not sure what I think could go. That just gives me food for thought.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Vice Chair Stringer Moore, just to clarify as well, so with your recommendation or kind of your proposal, it was building mental health resources, or was it under the sharing values, sharing communities umbrella?
It was really around around mental health. I don't know if we have the leeway to add to have 2 sharing value, sharing community events next year. Perhaps it would do better as a standalone issue since we were giving the guidance to focus on one sharing value, sharing community event previously. So I'm not sure how it should be framed, but probably as a standalone, and maybe even again a collaboration, even though I know there's some internal things about that with the health commission, but I know it is mental health, so I don't want to step on their toes.
Great, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This is an excellent conversation. It's exactly what we needed to have. And so I'm glad we're teeing this up. And any kind of work plan questions, you can, I probably can't answer them, but email me, email Heidi, or copy us both together as you think of them going forward. And then, of course, this discussion continues next meeting. So, maybe not.
Well, no, it will continue next meeting, but I want to add a little bit more of homework as you provided to everyone. And so as you were thinking, what I will do is I've added the 4 different recommendations or kind of proposals. I think it was 4. Okay. And in addition to that, I will also add the current work plan items. So what you'll receive is a document that has a total of 9 items for the initiative, just based on the notes that I gave you. If you would be taking a look at it and also consider the white lines there, which is what is the exact deliverable that you're looking at? Is it an event? Is it an education piece? I would also ask you to consider, do you want to be on that subcommittee? And if you are really drawn to it, would you consider being a lead for that subcommittee? And then also, because the goal is to have 2 to 3 members, commission members on there. And then, with student commissioners, 2 to 3 as well, or 1 to 2. Based on your capacity with school and things like that, but really having a robust group of folks that are on the particular subcommittee. And then also I would ask you to consider with any of these events or kind of just work plan items, if there is a potential for a green print, as Commissioner Stringer Moore talked about, just seeing kind of the timeline as well, because that's also helpful too. When you are starting to build that out, because with the logistics of green prints or kind of including other people, that green print has to be available for people to complete for 2 weeks. And it has to be within that 14 days. And then thinking about logistically too of your planning for your meetings as a whole body to approve those folks that would be on the working group as well too. So kind of looking at that timeline just to be planful of that. And then also the last homework piece is when you think about initiatives, what is your target completion date? I know with some of the events, there is certainly, there's been deadlines, or those are kind of traditionally placed on there for the event, for target completion date that I placed for some of the events that you have on your 2021 work plan. I put them at the very end of the year because you have more flexibility of that. But if there are dates and events that have to go with those certain times, to be also mindful of that as you're planning and approving those proposals as well. So that's my homework for you all, and I will send out those notes in your conversation. And if there's any errors or you want to expand on what you provided as a proposal, as Chair Epstein had said, please go ahead and send emails so that we can get that clarified for the next packet, so that you can start having more of those deep dive conversations of, are there things that you want to add or remove?
Perfect. Great. And do you want to keep going, Heidi, with the return to in-person meetings?
Sure. I feel like I've talked a lot. So just to give you an update, with City Council, the City Council will actually be returning to in-person meetings starting in July. And so their very first meeting, I believe, is July 20th. Is that correct, Lacey? Okay. So their first meeting is going to be July 20th. And so that means that then public meetings are going to start transitioning to coming back in person as well. And so I don't have the exact documentation, but I wanted to kind of give you a heads up. So tentatively, the July and August meeting will still be held virtually. And you will also have that option, since City Hall is also open, for you to come in the building. So we're going to try to do a hybrid model for July and August. And we're gonna figure out how that works out, but you will have that opportunity to be either at home or another area, or at City Council, or community room. However, for the September meeting, that is when we go back to in person. So that September meeting, which will be September 28th, will be your first official in-person meeting as a group, which will be great because some of you have not met each other in real life. So that is the tentative time frame. If I get more information, I will definitely share that with you, but I just wanted to let you know. I know with the city does not currently have any masking ordinance within the city facilities. However, there are signs that does indicate that if you are not vaccinated, that it's strongly recommended. We will also follow the same CDC Department of Health guidelines for exposure, or any of those things with COVID. So as more information comes to me or Reese about what does this return to in-person, mandatory in-person meetings look like, I will certainly let you know, but kind of just give you that heads up. September is going to be the very first month. And then also there are some other pieces too that have to be more formalized. If there is exposure, what does that do for in-person meetings as well? So I will give that to you. But attendance also, I've looked at. Everyone is good with attendance. Just to kind of reiterate, for voting members, it's 75% of the calendar year. So to attend, so everybody looks great. Student commissioners as well, so it's all good. So that's the update that I have. Are there any questions with the return to in-person meeting, or just the the hybrid meetings for July and August?
So I guess mine would be in September. As of now, you don't know the answer to would a person be able to participate virtually?
Participate as a commissioner virtually, or?
Yes.
I believe there are some medical leeways
Okay.
for folks to participate, but the expectation or the recommendation is that starting in September, all of the public meetings will be held in person.
Okay. So if someone has concerns by September about being in person, I would maybe talk to Heidi offline.
Yes.
Is the city gonna, I know this is loose about the, confirming of vaccination. Is it on your honor, or what's that process like?
And I think that's similar to what the city CDC and the Department of Health guidelines have been. There isn't a formal process to verify if someone has been if they've been vaccinated, because there is the HIPAA laws that are connected to it as well. So I think it is going to be on your honor until if there is something more formalized.
Okay. So we will move on to comments. And I'm just going to go across my screen here. So Commissioner Bennett, you're up.
Thank you. I too was going to reference the Juneteenth holiday and want to congratulate and commend people who worked so long to get that established. But I think it also demonstrates to us that elected bodies can take quick and decisive action when they want to. But I also think that there are things that are pending that would have much greater impact on people's current lives, including voting rights initiatives. Voting rights are under attack in almost every state in the country, including Minnesota right now, and people are dying. And we have elected bodies which are not taking action right now on voting rights protection or police reform. And I want to thank everybody in the community who is working so hard to make sure that voices are heard, and that the strength of support in the community is noted, and just encourage people to keep working, because it's not over until it's over, until sessions adjourn. But that's so still hopeful, thankful, and but concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Triggermore?
Hi, a couple announcements for me. I wanted to congratulate Commissioner Ishmael for receiving an award from the Edina Community Foundation for connecting with kids for the work that she does in the community. She received that last month at a breakfast, and I know she's no longer with us, but kudos to her on that. We also received an invitation, and I will send this to Heidi so that she can send it out as a community comment, but many of you may be familiar with Dr. Terry Rose and the effort she's leading in the city. They officially have a name, the Anti-Racist Collective, Edina Anti-Racist Collective. Anyway, they are extending an invitation for people to participate in the 4th of July parade. I'll just read this. We will have a banner, Anti-Racist Collective, t-shirts, and handheld signs with names of organizations, neighborhoods, and hopefully commissions supporting anti-racism in Edina. We would love for people to join us and create signs as a supporter of our collective effort to end systemic racism in Edina. And so the contact is Meriwether Felt, which again, I will send this information to Heidi so that if you are interested in walking individually, and perhaps, I don't know if we want to talk about if we're interested in walking collectively as HRRC in the parade and supporting this effort. I don't know what that process looks like, but I just wanted to share that. And then my third note, perhaps Heidi can provide guidance on how we move forward with that. My third note is, many of you know that I am the founder of a campaign called Share the Mic Minnesota, which really was my response to the new awakening to equity, equality, and systemic racism issues that arose last year. I'm happy to say that this week is our 1-year anniversary, and tomorrow is a mic share day. And I'm super excited that our very own U.S. Representative Dean Phillips will be sharing his mic with a local woman entrepreneur, Janita Flowers, who is the founder and owner of a company called Janita's Jar, which is a social corporation. It's a cookie company, but really focused on supporting domestic violence. So I would encourage you, there are other women participating, but that's our connection because he's our representative from Minnesota District 3. And she'll be taking over his Twitter platform, but you can follow the campaign on Instagram and Twitter tomorrow by just following the hashtag #ShareTheMicMN.
Perfect. Thank you. Commissioner Siegel?
Just briefly, I'll add to what Commissioner Stringer-Moore said, and we'll proudly say that the Edina League of Women Voters, Edina, will be marching with Dr. Terry Rose's group as part of the Anti-Racism Collective. As Joni has mentioned, we have an active racial justice action committee, and representatives from the league will be marching.
Commissioner Edwards?
Not much, just happy Pride Month. I guess it's June and July because the events have been pushed off into July for Loring Park, but happy Pride Month.
Well, it's a worthy enough cause for 2 months, that's for sure.
It could be all year as far as
That's
I'm
right.
concerned. So
I'm with you. Commissioner Guadarrama? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Felton?
Yes, I wanted to thank Reese for getting the technology to allow us to share our screens. That was pretty good. I also want to thank Heidi. You gave this committee or my committee or credit for the organization, but I can't take credit for that. That all goes to Heidi. She sent it the direction in the email, and so that credit goes where it should go. And then Commissioner Stringer-Moore, I owe you a vote of thanks as well because you came up with the Stop the Hate idea. We were struggling as a group to figure out what type of event to plan, and your idea just boom, it garnered everyone's attention and it had support. And lastly, and I'm a guy that likes to give credit where it's due, but I wanted to thank the chair because he is someone that I think you're doing a great job, but it's because you allow everyone to speak their mind, have an opportunity to speak, and it feels that everyone's opinion is valued, and that's important to me. So I wanted to thank you for that, and also you deserve credit too as well for providing great leadership for initiatives 3 and 4. You told us what we needed to do, so that's it. Oh, and the committee. I mean, we couldn't have done it without every member on that committee. They did a great job. So my thanks to you guys. And that's it, Commissioner Epstein.
Well, right back at you, Commissioner Felton. You are too kind, and I wish that my wife was around when you made those comments because she wouldn't believe them, especially to letting everybody speak their mind. No, you guys did an amazing job, and your work is incredible. But I appreciate that, and I know everyone else does. But right back at you because you're doing the work. That's for sure. Commissioner Ross?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. And I did not have comments either, other than to thank everybody. It's just such an excellent group. The student commissioners will go to Student Commissioner Lichtenberger.
Not much. No.
Okay. And Commissioner Mirza?
Nothing for me.
Okay. They're easy. They're being humble, everyone. Okay, and we go to the staff now.
Commissioner Guadarrama.
No, she had passed.
I already did. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine. But we'll go to Heidi.
So I provided one comment already, which is the Just Eats program. And then the second comment that I have is I have reached out to Edina Public Schools to see if Dr. Stanley is available to speak. And so I'm just waiting to hear back from the office of the superintendent to see what her availability is. And then my last comment is the police chief interviews. City Manager Neal had sent out on his Friday reports that the police chief interviews have been final or were finished. And so it started about 3 weeks ago. And they were then 3 finalists, and then they are in the process of deciding who will be moving on to the process, which is other, physical, emotional, and all of these other kind of like backgrounds that are considered. And so I know that there had been conversations within the community about what that process is with any position that is under the city, because we are with the city government kind of like organizational. The city manager has the administration for all of the city employees. And so that was the process taken when the fire chief, as well as the finance director, and the police job postings were started. And so within the police chief interview process, it was taken in consideration of what was the community feedback. And so the community feedback was taken from the Race and Equity Task Force, some of the other feedback from, whether it came from the city manager or city council, and things that they would like to see from the next police chief. So that was the community feedback that was put in that process. And so I'm not really sure what the time frame will look like of what the announcement or who the announcement will be for the next police chief of Edina, but that will be coming shortly. It just really depends on kind of all of those background pieces that will be coming through.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And City Fellow Kareem, did you have anything?
I did not.
Okay.
Chair Epstein, can we just have a discussion if we want to collectively participate in the parade with the anti-racism collective or as individuals? So I can.
You mean, is there anybody now who's available?
Right, or has an interest representing HRRC? Is that even okay, Heidi? Can we even do that, or?
I'm not really sure. I think kind of just given the timeline, I would recommend that if you want to individually participate as individuals in the anti-racism committee or commission, to be able to go ahead and do that as individuals, because I'm not sure what the process is if it's the city's boards and commission participating, if it's with another organization.
Well, individually, if you're interested in participating, please send me an email. I think you guys all have my email address, or if you don't, send it to Heidi. And Heidi, if you don't mind, just forwarding it to me, and then I can get anybody interested in participating, or if they're with an organization that wants to participate, connected to the right people. Is that an okay ask?
Yeah, would you be willing to just forward that email that you were reading off, Vice Chair Sugarmore, and then I will disseminate it to the entire commission?
I think that's a yes.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, now I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, second Commissioner Felton, second. Did you get that, Reese?
Felton first. I saw Siegel's hand up, so I got Siegel's signal. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Roll call.
Chair Epstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards,
Aye.
Commissioner Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Siegel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett, Commissioner Guadarrama.
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
I look forward to seeing everybody in person who's ever going to be there in July. It'll be nice. Have a good night.
Good job, Reese.
Thanks.
Have a good night.